Sparrow, you got a hit right there.
Welcome into another episode of Capturing the Game. It's the Game Within the Game podcast featuring me, your host, Desmond Jones, and my man, Jawan Polo Man Solo Stewart. Today, he is unavailable, so it's just me handling everything today, but that's okay. We're still going to have bring forth a great show. But today, we have the principal at Tech Foundry. His name is Tod Caflisch. Tod, how are you doing today?
I am doing great, Desmond. How are you doing? You having a good weekend?
Yeah, I had a pretty good, solid weekend. This past weekend, we had a chance to go watch the Mad Ants play, and then I was doing some housework. So I was trying to wire up the house. I'm adding a networking switch. And I'm dropping networking ports all throughout the house. So I've been crawling through the attic, trying to, locate my wires and try not to make our house look like a Swiss cheese when it's all said and done.
Nice. Yeah, been there, done that myself. My wife and I are in the process of designing, our next house. Hopefully, to break ground probably early next year. But I'm a big smart home fan, so I've got a huge wired network planned with Cat 6 throughout, probably about 60 drops or so, and then ubiquity Wi-Fi and integrations with Sonos sound, probably about, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 different zones, from patio to bedrooms to great room, kitchen, office, that kind of stuff that I can control individually or as a whole audio system, and Wi-Fi throughout, and voice assistant, probably Amazon Alexa control. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I wish you luck. If there's anything I can do to help you, let me know.
Hey, I may have to shoot you my wiring diagram just to let you know, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm proposing. I know, like, I'm running like a Cat 6 pretty much all throughout the house. My switch is going to be located in my utility room. I'm doing two drops on the networking. On the office, because one drop from my area, one drop from my wife, and then just kind of a drop in each one of the rooms just to spread out all the connections and stuff.
Gotcha. That's a good call, man.
Yeah, I got tired of being on Wi-Fi, so I want to get back to
wire as much as you can. It's always kind of been my rule of thumb, and that way you preserve Wi-Fi for the stuff that really needs to be mobile. But I'm even dropping plates behind the appliances in the kitchen for future Ethernet connected appliances like refrigerator and stove and microwave, all that sort of stuff. But and then drops throughout, for like in my office, obviously like you, and then in the bedrooms for desks and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I believe most refrigerators only come Wi-Fi capable. They don't really have the Ethernet port on there, do they?
Not that I know of yet, but I'm thinking, probably 20 to 30 years down the road, I'm who knows, I'm it's kind of a weird thing to get excited about, but I'm actually kind of looking forward to plugging my refrigerator into a network.
Hey, low key, me too. Me too. But yeah, now, Tod, can you go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Besides being a smart home geek, I guess, really, technology advocate, leader. I have worked, the last few years doing consulting work, primarily in the sports and entertainment industry, in building stadiums and mixed use development and practice facilities, that type of thing. As well as, then prior to that, that really kind of drove a lot of the experience working in sports and entertainment. I worked for 27 years in CIO and CTO roles with teams in the NBA, NHL, and the NFL. So I've been all over the country, worked in a number of of teams. I've worked in and 7 different venues. I've actually managed technology in 3 of those venues that the organizations I worked with operated, and won some championships along the way. So it's been a great ride.
Did they give you any championship rings?
All 4.
Whoa! What
Yep.
teams, if you don't mind me asking?
It was my first sports team stop. It was San Antonio Spurs. I was there from 1990 until 2007, and was there through building the AT&T Center and the practice facility, and then winning championships in 99, 03, 05, and 07.
07. Yeah, because they won that spurt where they won like every other year.
Yep. Yeah. I was there for that ride, man. That was it was pretty crazy, but it was absolutely a joy.
Wow, that's pretty phenomenal. So, okay, what sparks your love for technology?
It's kind of funny because I never touched a computer until I actually got out of grad school.
Wow.
Well, I guess maybe that just shows my age, but I didn't go to college for computer science or any of that stuff. I was actually looking to get into the advertising industry. I got a degree in graphics design, and while I was in grad school, building my portfolio to work in that industry, one of my instructors, told me that a buddy of his that was a manager at IBM was looking for somebody with graphics skills that had some tech capabilities. So he introduced me, and it was a really interesting role. Basically, it was managing graphics design for a program involving about a dozen satellites in orbit that they were beaming classroom content off of, from transmission sites like Dallas, where I was, to these other smaller locations around the country. And it was all integrated. It was really kind of the first iteration of like Zoom, which is neat because we had mics set up in the broadcast centers with cameras, as well as the same on the receiving end, so that way they could communicate in real time during education part of it. But yeah, that's how, I just, started kind of tinkering with the equipment at that point, and, found, I really kind of developed a real passion, or at least a talent for technology, which wasn't shocking. My mom was a programmer analyst, so I had kind of grown up, with that sort of in the back of my mind anyway. But yeah, that's kind of how the whole thing started. As far as technology goes, I went on, from there. I worked at EDS, Electronic Data Systems, for a few years there, where I managed some teams working in the corporate communications department. We were developing all kinds of graphics, type of materials for everything from internal training to sales to our FAA documentation for the corporate fleet of aircraft, all kinds of stuff. Anything basically, if it was printed, we pretty much did it.
Wow, that's incredible. I'm curious to see what program language like your mother was typing. It was it like COBOL?
I believe it was. Yep. Yeah. She retired, a while back, but I know she was, it was probably COBOL back in the day. So, yeah.
Oh no, that's a great one. So my mom for me is what got me into IT. She used to work at a hospital, and she would bring home computers, for just to meet up to tinker with and play with, and then
Yep.
before you know it, I was showing her how to do things, and I
There you
became the
go. And
expert.
that was kind of the way I learned it too. I think, I would have loved to have had, maybe more formal, training. But I've really enjoyed my career. I love where I am right now. And, I'd almost be afraid if I could sort of reel it back and do it all over again, and study computer science, back then, that I would have ended up in a very different place, honestly, because it would have probably taken me in a different direction. I may have been a programmer, like my mother was, or that kind of thing. So, it just, I mean, I've always loved sports. It was probably a good match for me working, initially, with the Spurs and, in basketball, because I was actually terrible basketball player. So, it was, I was more focused on my job than, hanging out with, the players or the coaches and that kind of thing, which always leads to trouble anyway. So, anyways,
Uh, yeah, I understand your viewpoint of that because there's no telling where you could have been if you would have gotten into technology
yeah,
earlier.
yeah.
Especially, um, I'm curious to see how did you like get into sports because sports and technology before it used to be on like two separate spectrums, like you couldn't
Hmm.
cross paths, but now it's starting to intertwine and you can't almost separate the two almost at this point
Yep.
in time. So how did you get into sports, doing
I
technology for
mean,
sports?
it was, and that's the other kind of funny thing is, really, I was never looking, to really get into sports. Um, I left EDS to go to work for a company in San Antonio, and
Hmm.
I was chasing money. I was, had little kids, and I was, it was a promotion, it was a raise, but what I didn't realize, it was also, twice the number of hours a week working and tons of travel and all that stuff. And I was literally watching my kids, grow up,
Mm.
at a distance. And so, I had some friends around and just said, hey, I'm looking for something else. And literally, this is crazy example of, successful networking, I guess. My secretary at the company introduced me to her husband, who I had lunch with. He introduced me to a guy in San Diego who I flew out and did some work for, and some consulting stuff. And then he introduced me, to a woman back in San Antonio who I had lunch with, who turned around and told me, you need to call Russ Bookbinder, the president at the Spurs. They might, be needing somebody with your skills. And, at that time I was, had some technical skills, and experience, as well as, the graphic design. So sure enough, I call Russ, and one or two rings, he answers the phone. And so I introduced myself and I described, kind of what I did, what I was looking for. And, he told me to come in, he made an appointment, and probably, I don't know, within about 3 weeks, I was working there. And it was the beginning of the 1990 basketball season. And it's kind of funny because, I worked with Russ, the entire time that I was there with the Spurs. And the running joke between he and I was that, once I started working inside, I couldn't even call him, and when he would actually answer his phone, it would be his secretary. So, we sort of figured it must have been, sort of meant to be that I was going to work in sports, because, secretary didn't pick up and he answered the blind call, and wham bam, thank you ma'am, there I am. So, um, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the rest has been history.
The rest is
That's
history, as they say. Yep. Yeah. It was a great run. Through the 90s. We had some, you know, decent teams, early on,
yeah,
but
yeah.
nothing that was, threatening anything like a championship. And then, when we, and of course, David Robinson, came along, and then we drafted Tim Duncan, and we had, RC Buford and the rest of the staff there, did a great job in pulling together, the rosters that we had, both domestic and international, and kind of set us on our run. We won the first championship in '99 against the Knicks, which, at the same time we were, lobbying very diligently to, win a vote to get funding to build the AT&T Center. And so that helped us kind of get over the top on that. And so off we went, on that project, got started. I got to, basically kind of spearhead the technology then, which was, nothing compared to what it is, today. I look back, and, we had some of the real early versions of digital signage in the venue, and ticker boards and that kind of thing. It was, what I would probably consider pretty tech forward at the time. But again, compared to me walking into Allegiant, Stadium back in August of this year, for the first Raiders game there, and just blown away. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that's one thing I wanted to talk about is, since I know you've started off with technology kind of back in '99 and even before then to where things are right now. Talk about some of the challenges that technology has caused you because of how far it has advanced in such a short time.
Well, technology in sports really was, it grew. There were people, I think, like myself, and there was kind of a small handful of others that were really kind of looking for opportunities, for, to apply technology, in both the front office, business, side, as well as, an event support side, and then also the team side, building competitive advantage. I think, again, RC and his team at the time, were probably one of the most tech forward thinking groups, so we were doing a lot of work in app development and things, for databases, early on, that, for scouting, and we kind of pioneered early on, a platform that, saved tons of hours, working through spreadsheets and things that literally through drag and drop, you could do sort of fantasy trade scenarios, that, would take into salary cap and other, player, association rules and all those types of things that would, tell you if trades, even up to three-way trades, could happen. So, we were I think we were pretty far ahead of the game at that point there, from a front office perspective. The Spurs were a Mac shop when I first joined. And, just from a business need perspective, we migrated to Windows, probably, I don't know, it was maybe by the mid '90s, and then have been ever since. But, I think really, ticketing, the ticketing platforms like Ticketmaster were really sort of that big technology platform, at the time. And, so we were doing a lot of things within that it really, was kind of pushing the limits of, so, right about that same time, like CRM solutions like Microsoft Dynamics, started to sort of pop up, and, we ended up, implementing that, in order to, do better marketing and sales, because we were a small market team. And small market money is hard to come by sometimes, especially if you're not winning championships. As they say, winning cures all ills, and it's pretty true. So, and it also brings a lot more money in, so you can do a lot more things, as far as technology and that sort of stuff. So, there was kind of a escalation process that was going on there as, we were looking at, pushing the envelope more with technology from a competitive advantage side with the team to, even events, our Spurs games, concerts, that kind of thing, to, the business side with, automating reporting and that type of thing, and doing more around, especially around finance and accounting. There was a lot of growth there, but I mean, nothing like, the last few years. I mean, I honestly think that, maybe if anybody looks for a silver lining to this whole pandemic mess, I think it really sort of pushed technology and sports entertainment ahead about 5 years, within that probably year and a half time frame, just because, teams are always reluctant to spend or invest, just because, it's hard sometimes to drive, or figure out maybe what ROI is on investment in technology. But, they were actually seeing how much they were losing, by having, smaller crowds or no crowds at events, but, being able to implement, technologies that already existed out there that, would allow for, kind of, more digital experience, they were touchless, kind of stuff where, tickets were all going digital, and purchasing point of sale was all going that way as well, either through, NFC or tap technologies, or even facial recognition now is being deployed. But then also, other tech, around, venue security and keeping things disinfected, that kind of stuff. Drones. I mean, people are using drones, to disinfect between events, which is pretty cool, or robots that would use UV that would disinfect as well. So I mean, there's been, really a kind of a quantum leap, around that, basically, driving better fan engagement or fan experience. But, there's also been, huge leaps, over the last, 20 to 30 years that, just in, the on-field or practice technologies, chips and equipment now that the, NFL players are wearing, that, drive, really neat, analytics, and kind of some fun fact kind of stuff that they tell you about in the, in the broadcasts, or, for basketball, with using video analytics that, can, tell you, like, I remember, when we were first looking at them, Rajon Rondo was playing for the Celtics, and, through this optics system, and the analytics, you could basically, calculate that, he got, on a steal and a breakaway layup, he got up to something like 20 miles an hour before, he laid up the ball and hit the ground, to stop. I mean, things like that, acceleration speed. There's a lot of, when I was with the New Orleans Hornets, we did a lot of work with analytics around, player baselining, as far as, like vertical jump and hand-eye coordination and just foot quickness and things like that, we would, keep, as sort of a yardstick on players, especially where if they, were injured, once they rehabbed, you could run them back through the same exercises and see how they matched, prior, to see if, hey, they were really healed, because a lot of injuries happen later in the season, and teams need guys, when the playoffs come around, but they don't want guys to get re-injured either. So it's a really neat way to baseline and measure, to make sure that rehabbing is going as projected or planned, that type of stuff, or if guys are really back, really healed. There's a lot of neat stuff. I mean, it's all over the place, but it's so cool.
Yeah, I'm learning as I was talking to you, because there's some of the things I always wonder, like how they do it. Like, for example, I mentioned the NFL players about how they, tell about how much speed that there was going, or even just basketball from the standpoint. I always wondered how they produce those real time analytics, especially
Mhm.
presented to the audience.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, they have chips in the shoulder pads, that
Okay.
can, measure things like, quickness and, literally linear speed and that sort of stuff. It's a way they can also track, so, I mean, sometimes you'll see where, they can show where receivers are running routes, or where defenders are. It's also a way, you can do things like I know we did with the optics, do heat mapping. So I mean, we
Hmm.
could actually even game plan a little bit around, knowing where, players, either players on your roster or opposing players, through these video analytics, you could see where they tend to spend the most time on the court. You can tell they're very defensive sort of focused or they're more offensive kind of players, even if they're more right-handed or left-handed on a dribble, that type of thing. So that way, if I mean, at the Spurs, I mean, we were famous for, building our roster, with role players. So, I mean,
Yeah.
we would have guys on there that, would, be there literally specifically just to defend players like Kobe Bryant,
Yeah.
and because and they would build rosters, anticipating these teams that we would run into in the playoffs. All you had to do was get in, get
Yep.
into the playoffs, and then it was really kind of game on at that point, at the Spurs. But it's interesting, kind of how the different, sort of people, executives approach, how you want to use technology and the kind of things that they value. I mean, we built, databases that, sort of were the initial version, like ahead of the NBA had a database of all the, like every night at every NBA game, all the stats that are recorded courtside, they all
Hmm.
go to a database for the league, and that's how, like they sell those stats, to, the online betting companies and that kind of stuff, for setting odds and that sort of thing, and for the, like fantasy playing and all that stuff. But um, there's also a database where you can look up all kinds of stats from any player, historically. Well, we developed a database that was actually, well, internally, that was before that. So we could literally work guys from high school up through college, and with all kinds of, stats was, we had scraped from all over different sources on the internet, including video or that type of stuff that, would literally give us, this sort of view of a player. And when we had aspects of it that could literally compare like a certain player's statistics to what we called known goods, which were like a
Hmm.
Larry Bird or a Michael Jordan or,
Okay.
those types. And so that way we could literally draft or trade, better, build rosters better based on kind of historically, this guy is trending like this. So he's like this kind of player. So we know sort of what to expect from him. But it would also tell us, kind of maybe where they were going to peak, and kind of drop off in a productivity perspective, especially around scoring. And so that way we could craft, better contracts. So that way,
Hmm.
we didn't end up having a, multi-millionaire guy on the end of the bench that, was giving us 2 points a night, and we had, a guy we were paying minimum that was, scoring like crazy. So, plus it helped us as well, with trades, because, if a guy was kind of hot, knowing if he was going to, start to drop off, we could get rid of him. We could trade him, to somebody else, knowing that, most likely his productivity was going to drop off. And we kind of helped us in a couple of ways. There was, salary cap hits as well as
Yeah.
on court productivity. So yeah, a lot of stuff. I mean, people, don't realize, I mean, some of it drives pretty deep, I mean, all the analytics, and how they're applied.
Yeah, and that's what I'm unpacking, and that's why I'm glad I'm learning as far as my master's from business administration in school. I'm learning some analytics. So like hearing this, I'm like, yo, it's like some of the stuff I'm like, all right, I kind of knew, but some of the stuff is like, yo, it's unpacking what I thought I knew and just kind of going deeper with that. Well, I do want to ask this question first before I ask another question. For people that are trying to enter these sports, into the tech side of sports, what type of technology do you recommend that they be familiar with before they try to pursue any particular roles?
I think probably the greatest growth area is in the analytics area in sports. I mean, from a front office to a competitive advantage, on the team side, perspective. I would probably say, get good at math, the whole analytics part of it, as far as, getting into sports in general. I mean, I tell you, I got people, reach out to me all the time on LinkedIn, asking me about that, a lot of, college seniors and, in their senior year and, saying, hey, how do I do it? Can you help me? And I'm like, I'm more than willing to help people. The best way they can help themselves, especially, with kids coming out of college, with a degree, even a master's, is to have practical experience. I mean, it's kind of sad, but, I'll have people calling me up probably this coming, February, March, saying, hey, I want to get in sports. I'm like, great. What experience do you have? Well, I worked at Starbucks. Okay, well, sorry, but it's like kind of the first cut. I mean, think about it. I mean, entry-level jobs in sports get literally hundreds of applicants. So I mean, the first cut is, anybody that has never worked in sports before. So, I mean, what I tell them is volunteer, do whatever you got to do, look for even, because everybody also wants to go and work for their favorite NFL team right out of the chute, or the favorite NBA team, whatever it is. And it's like, that's great and wonderful, but the competition is so hard. I mean, it's fierce, and, what I tell them is, keep it cost effective, keep it local, find a local minor league team, hockey, baseball, whatever it is, and volunteer to help them if you want, or if you can, just even, on event days, that type of thing. If you can get, some kind of role, working with the minor league team in the front office, that, I think is probably the best opportunity, because minor league teams tend to be real lean when it comes to staff. So everybody there wears a lot of hats. So what that means for, kind of that entry level person is, or somebody looking to get experience, is you're going to learn game operations, you're going to learn marketing, you're going to learn sales, you're going to learn, all kinds of stuff, so, I mean, you might start off a game day, by setting up, the gates, for ticketing, and then you hand out stuff as the event starts, flyers or, whatever a premium is, a bobblehead or something, to, working with, the on-field talent during timeouts or whatever, running promotions, that type of stuff, or and in between you might be doing sponsor activation work. So that's the kind of thing that teams want to see, is those types of things, especially if it's areas where you want to work. But I can tell you, man, sometimes it just it takes getting in the door. I mean, I worked with Ryan Pace, who's the general manager at the Chicago Bears right now. When he was at the Saints, I worked with him on some database stuff that, the Saints were interested in when I was with the New Orleans Hornets. Basically some stuff that we had done that they had heard of. I worked with him and his team on that. He actually started at the Saints selling tickets of all things. Who'd have thunk it? But hey, dude is, been in the league for years now, and I mean, people can say what they want about the Bears, but I think it seems like they're making some progress. They're getting better, and I'm sure that a lot of that is thanks to Ryan, and his experience working with Mickey Loomis at the Saints and Sean Payton and the rest of the staff there. So you never know, never know.
That's true. Yeah. As all right, so my brother's a big Bears fan. My father is a big Saints fan because he's originally from down south. So, but he still roots for the Bears as well. So, people are always been clamoring for Ryan's head, well, for him to depart from Chicago. I'm been on the board with. I think he's done a decent job, and I think he deserves another strike at the apple. But we're not going to talk about.
Well, I mean, it's the thing. There's a lot of value in continuity. We've all seen the teams that have had the revolving doors as general managers and coaches and that kind of thing. And I mean, sometimes it's building process. I mean, we went through that a lot early on. When I was at the Spurs. I mean. We had, Larry Brown went through. That's where I first met Greg Popovich. He was an assistant, and Larry left and Greg went off to Oakland for a little while. And then he came back as the GM and the head coach. But I mean, we had Hill. We had Jerry Tarkanian was a coach at the Spurs for like the first month or two of one of the years there. Was awful, but I mean, we struggled. That's what I said. I mean, we had some mediocre teams, until Pop really kind of came in, and I mean, we didn't win championships right away, I mean, but once we got started, man, it was juggernaut.
Coming, yeah. That's exciting. Okay, walk me through video analytics. So I always heard of data analytics. I really don't know how video analytics work. So can you explain that?
Yeah. Like video analytics, there's a solution that, the NBA has deployed in all the arenas. It's 6 cameras, and basically the video footage is fed through, basically it's like a software filter that, looks at, I mean, you can pull all kinds of data. I mean, about players. I mean, even the ball. I mean, literally, you could generate a graphic image that'll show everywhere the ball bounced on the court. Which is really kind of interesting. Because a lot of it's again, you get into that heat mapping sort of stuff where you could show where players tend to play most, or even see where they're right-handed or left-handed, and to try and match. Players as you sub in and out, to overcome, weaknesses that, teams, show through these like heat maps. But basically that's what it is. I mean, you can tell, how far guys get up off the floor, with the video analytics as well, for rebounding or a jam or a block or something like that. But yeah, basically it sort of maps the court, and then just through the activity of play, where there's contact with this map and lack of contact, it can build these analytics that will are very, very telling about even player effort, and like how fast they run and how high they jump and that sort of thing. But, other crazy stuff, like the ball bouncing and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Dude, that's super fascinating. So I always like, if I was to vision video analytics, that's the way that I thought of it. It's just that, like, for me, I'm not aware of that software because I'm sure that software is not really available for the public eye. So
No, not really. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it's basically specifically, built, for that purpose. I mean, there's a lot of
Mhm.
other video analytic type of stuff. I mean, we worked on some projects on some college campuses that, where you can aggregate Wi-Fi data and video that, can do things like identify left objects, like a backpack or something, or it can, detect fires, or like in a
Mhm.
stadium or an arena, it could show where there's a wet spill that, would alert, like, some security or janitorial to clean up before somebody slips and, breaks their back or something. But that type of thing, just and identifying anomalies,
Yeah.
people running or fights or crazy stuff like that.
Yeah. Are we getting to the point where technology can kind of predict when people will get injured?
That was another aspect of, kind of what we were doing a little bit at the Spurs and the Hornets, was trying to get into some of that predictive stuff. I mean, since then there's been a lot of technology, you know, developed, or adapted, that, um, through wearables and that sort of thing. I mean, I think it's a lot. There's been a lot of interesting tech that's been pushed into sports. I mean, like the video analytics,
Hmm.
that optic system with the cameras was actually originally a missile tracking software that was
Wow.
adapted, to drive the analytics, for the the system they use, on NBA and the NBA courts. But wearables has become, kind of that thing. I mean, they used it, in the bubble,
Hmm.
for the NBA, that first season with the pandemic, very successfully. Things like, I mean, we when I was at the Hornets, I mean, we looked at, even clothing that had sensors that could tell, the amount of perspiration, so that way
Yeah.
you could, it would tell when players, needed to be, to drink,
That's right.
water and that kind of thing, or hydrate. Um, Stuff like that, or even speed. I mean, you could tell when, if guys were really,
Going
through
down.
heart rate, whether they were really, training hard or not. And that's driven a lot of other things, like these effort equivalency sort of programs that I think really were spearheaded by Pop and his team, where, you know you would rest starters. So knowing that you got, the starters would play X a number of minutes in games plus practice, you would take guys out of practice early, and then the subs would practice on, so that way they get, more practice time, so that way there's less drop off, in
Hmm.
productivity, whether it's offense or defense, when, subs come in to spell starters. Plus that, that's another way too, that, especially, as players age, that you can do more predictive stuff around injuries. It's
Hmm.
like, I mean, I don't know what, maybe a good analogy is, cars break down after a certain point, or tires
Yeah.
wear out after
Right.
X number of
Right.
miles, kind
Miles.
of
Yeah.
thing. So, I mean, that way you can, stretch players, by resting them more, or, you're more careful about them. Again, it's kind of going back to that baselining concept, with rehabbing and all that.
All that's super fascinating. So I'm at the point where I'm like, all right, once I'm done doing my podcast, what kind of data analytics project I can do on my own, just to like practice and just get in the habit of utilizing some of the analytic skills I'm kind of learning in school.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
analytics, I think, would be, I mean, if I was going to tell, my grandkids, if they wanted to get into sports, that's what I would tell them. I said, be good at analytics, because, somebody will always need you for that, and I mean, even outside of sports.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. So I'm trying to be protective of your time. We're gonna go ahead and transition into our rapid fire round, which we call the game within the game. So my question is, are you ready to play?
I am always ready to play.
I
Just ask
love
my
it.
grandson.
I love it. Do you so what sports do you play with your grandson?
Um,
Or
well, I
or
mean,
even games?
yeah, well, I mean, he plays soccer. We had a soccer game this
Okay.
afternoon. But I mean, he's only 4. So I mean, I look
Okay.
forward to, kind of, playing with him all the time, whether it's Marvel superheroes or it's, something else, I love the imagination, and,
Yeah.
but what I don't love is that, when we do play games, he tends to like to change the rules as we go, so that way he always wins.
Okay. I think I was one of that. I was that type of kid growing up.
Yeah,
So
I probably was too. So I can't hold it against him.
all right. That's funny. So the very first question that we normally ask is chocolate chip cookies or oatmeal raisin?
Oh, oatmeal raisin. Absolutely.
Oh, I wish Jawan was here to hear that. Yes, so I prefer oatmeal raisin cookies. TV shows and movies.
I was long overdue. I absolutely love Ted Lasso.
Okay.
I've actually worked a little bit of soccer, in my past, but it was never kind of really, my game that much. But you know, that show is, maybe I would say, is the best television series or show that I have ever watched. I mean, just a lot of different reasons why. I mean, uh, it obviously has the kind of sort of that sports spin on it. So it was of interest to me that way because, I understand sort of the, behind the scenes, how sports works, the business of sports. But, Jason Sudeikis did such a great job, in that role. It just, I mean, other than just enjoying it, I mean, I think there was a lot of lessons in it. There was some great leadership stuff, you know, all around, just a lot of how personalities mesh and dealing with different challenges and that kind of thing. But, I think, Ted Lasso, absolutely. Other than that, I'm a sci-fi guy. I love movies and shows, there and sports movies, Rudy and all those, just anyways.
Yeah, no, I get it. I haven't heard or watched Ted Lasso, but I'm going to watch it.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Apple TV.
I
It
saw
was
it.
it worth the subscription.
Okay, dearly noted. But yeah, so I'm big into sci-fi as well. So I'm looking forward to the Mandalorian when it comes out.
Yeah,
Um,
so I watched that as well. I mean,
yep,
interesting. That was interesting. I'm
yeah,
I'm a mild Star Wars fan.
okay. Yeah, are you more on the Star Trek side, or are you just different other
I
sci-fi?
again, I show my age, man. I mean, I've seen every old original, Star Trek, episode, there ever was multiple times. It got my favorite. My favorite was the one Arena, where Kirk fights the Gorn, on the planet.
Okay,
So it's actually based on a short story.
okay. Yeah, I always was the Star Wars fan. It wasn't until probably about 7 years ago I'm like, Star Trek is really not that bad.
I mean, if you get by the, kind of the cheesy, effects and the sets and all that stuff. I mean, it's actually kind of cool. I mean,
It
I
is.
think too much, movies and TV shows now rely on CGI, to sort of get over the top. I don't know. I'm old school that way. I love old black and white movies, as well, Day the Earth Stood Still, the original, and, stuff like that. The Thing, the original one. But used to break my heart because those things would come on and, my kids just wouldn't watch them because they were black and white. They thought it was, oh, that's old, but
yeah. Kids definitely do that. I know my nephews and nieces that do that to me. It was like, what's a VHS? or what or what is this in black and white? So yeah, I get it. Windows or Mac?
Oh, Windows. I struggle with Mac, even though that's where I cut my teeth, for the first few years with the Spurs. But I don't know, not, I would go back to it possibly, just because of the graphics capabilities mostly. Maybe that's something else I want to try doing is, maybe some video editing work. We had a Mac based video editing solution when I was at the Memphis Grizzlies, that Sport Tech, that was pretty solid.
Okay. iPhone or Android?
I have an iPhone.
Okay. I have an Android. My work phone is an iPhone, so yep. I do both.
Yep. Yeah, it seems kind of the go-to platform, especially around a lot of the smart home apps. But they develop for Android as well. Most of them, go both ways. But it's just, it's easy.
Yeah. Okay. Since I know that you were in the San Antonio Spurs organization, who were your 5 favorite San Antonio Spurs?
Oh, absolutely. David Robinson, Sean Elliott, surprisingly Dennis Rodman. That guy was a nut, but he was, when you got to talk to him one-on-one, the guy was pretty articulate, pretty sharp.
Yeah.
Let's see who else. Tim Duncan, he was an interesting guy, and he was a great basketball player. Maybe dig back. Who else? Maybe number 5 would be Bruce Bowen. He was real outgoing, and easy to talk to guy. I don't know. We just had a great roster of guys. Vinny Del Negro was pretty cool. Even Manu Ginobili as well. Easy to talk to, pretty outgoing.
I forgot Vinny was there too, because Vinny went on to coach the Bulls and coaching.
Oh yeah,
and the Clippers.
Yeah, there was. I tell you that program under Pop has spawned so many players and coaches, moving on, to, a lot of success in the league. Got, Mike Budenholzer, who, just won the NBA championship last year at the Bucks. I worked with him, he was a video edit guy, and, he kind of started at the bottom and worked his way up, into an assistant role. And then, when he left, I think he went from there to, I don't know. No, he was the head coach at the Hawks, and then Milwaukee. But man, he's done well. There's been a number, folks that have ended up like out in Utah and where else? Orlando, tons. Yeah.
Wow. All right, football question for you: Tom Brady or Peyton Manning?
Wow. I probably would have to go with Tom Brady just because he's won so many championships, but he's also so resilient. It doesn't seem like, he's, lost that much, but he's just smart. He has good field presence, and command, of gameplay. So, yeah, I think, but, the only issue I have is he is a Wolverine. And I'm a Smarty fan. My son my son played for Michigan State, my youngest one. My older one played for Texas A&M. So, being a Sparty fan, I've got a, natural hatred of Wolverines in general.
I know you had been happy when they beat Michigan, though, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Yesterday was a little disappointing, against Purdue.
See, that's why I skipped past that game. I went back to Michigan. It was like, remember the happy times?
Oh, I know. Believe me, it's like, but yeah, I mean, beating Michigan, was like back in high school, our big rival game was on Thanksgiving. And it was almost like, as long as you won that game, your season was made, whether you made the playoffs or not.
Right.
That was never my way of thinking, but yeah, beating Michigan. I mean, I was there that game when they blocked the punt with 10 seconds left.
Ooh.
And won, there right at the end. Yeah.
Good times. Good times. Speaking of that, so let me ask you this, since we're kind of like on this topic. Your favorite sports moment that you've either seen or witnessed?
Favorite sports moment. As a father, it would have been back, I don't know, a few years ago at Ryan Field, Northwestern. My son playing at Michigan State. He was a long snapper and an offensive lineman, and they punted to Northwestern, and my son had the most incredible down, literally kind of caught the ball over his shoulder inside the one, and then dropped it, inside the one as he fell into the end zone and pinned Northwestern there, inside the one for their first down. That, that was a kind of one of those big proud dad moments. Other than that, really, our playoff game against Portland Trailblazers at the Alamo Dome back, what year was that? It was 99, I think, that Sean Elliott hit the 3 at the buzzer to beat Portland in that game. I was standing on top of the section, just right there at the baseline, and witnessed that. That was, the place went up. It was, that was one of those sort of, goosebump moments as well. Because at that point, we knew we were destined. We were on our way to win that year. What else? I don't know, man. I've I tell you, I've seen a lot of them, honestly. Between all the college football games I've been to, all the football, just NFL games and NBA and NHL. I've seen some great comebacks, by the Red Wings while I was there with them. Opening day against the Packers, when I was with the Vikings at US Bank Stadium when we opened that in 2016. Wow. Yeah. There's been a lot, yeah.
I love it. I love just the one that you mentioned, just the last shot by Sean Elliott.
Oh yeah. No, that Memorial Day miracle, that shot, that one, that made history for us right there. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was just so amazing too. When you look at it, we're literally, he took a pass and he's had to step back behind, the 3-point line, literally in the corner. And he looked back to make sure that his heels weren't over the sideline, on his toes, and took the shot and drained it at the buzzer. Done. Yeah. I think it was at the buzzer, or it was real close, but
it had been.
I get goosebumps just thinking about that right now.
No, that's incredible. I have to go back and watch the highlight now.
Yep. There's other fun moments too. Opening night at the Dome. What year was that? Against Golden State. when we had the water cannons go off, during intros that delayed the game for a while. That was, we made ESPN's, like bottom 10 list
I'm gonna
on
say
that one.
the not top 10.
No. That was an interesting night too. Absolutely. I got the opportunity to see, Michael Jordan play, and and Shaq and Charles Barkley. It's been an amazing career, to be honest.
I know from just the technology side of it, I know it already has been, just because of how long you've been in it. Like you don't stay around the technology if you're not that good in it. So, or if you're not
Well,
being able to
thanks.
communicate, yeah, of
Yep.
course. We didn't even. But there's so much stuff that I left on that we didn't even get a chance to talk about. But we can save that for another day, one day.
Yeah, that'll be part 2.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask you this like 2 more quick questions, and then we'll be out of here. Okay. So if you had a chance to take over any organization, who would you choose?
Sports team?
It could be sports team, it could be Chase Bank, it could be, whoever you want to like whoever you want to take over or be a part of.
Wow, interesting. It might be the New Orleans Saints.
Okay.
People, they have such a great loyal following of fans.
Oh yes,
win
they
or
do.
lose, and and New Orleans is such a cool city. There's just, it's just all upside. Plus being part of the NFL, there's all kinds of great revenue there from the league, partnerships. It's I think it might be the Saints, because they're, or God, if I was going to take over some kind of conventional business, I don't know. I would want it to be something fun. I don't know.
I agree.
I have to think about it.
If you get a chance to take over something, it has to be something fun.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Or something that's meaningful, that helps people. That's one of the things I loved about all of the organizations, the sports teams that I work for, is, they were all pretty community focused, especially the smaller market teams like the Spurs and that type of thing, that, were very, very integrated with the community. We did all kinds of, Habitat for Humanity projects, and, we planted trees and, what else? Just, food drives, that kind of stuff, at the Hornets, every year we hosted a Thanksgiving or Christmas, kind of dinner sort of banquet for seniors that we would bus in from all these different nursing homes, around New Orleans. Just neat stuff like that. I think that really differentiated, us and the organization, but also, sports in general, from a lot of other businesses.
That's super neat. All right, the last question, which is the hardest one of them all.
Okay.
Where can people follow you at on social media to follow along with your career and keep up with everything that you have going on?
I'm on, LinkedIn, and Twitter, Facebook. I have pages for Tech Foundry, and then, I do a weekly blog with smarthomeontherange.com for, the smart home project that my wife and I are working on. That's a particular sort of passion project right there, but, all the standard social media outlets, as well as, the stuff for smarthomeontherange.com and Tech Foundry.
Yeah, real quick. I know I'm over time, but I was wondering if you could tell the audience a little bit about Tech Foundry, because that's one of the
Tech
things I
Foundry?
left. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, Tech Foundry basically is a sports technology consulting practice that I started when I left the Vikings back in 2018. I do consulting work, with teams and venue operators, around, business operations, staffing, event operations, that type of thing, really where there's tech integrated. I work with other partners. I work with, companies like Bose in the past and others that, are that have links into sports. Really it's, based around, three things. It's either, driving, better efficiencies, where they're looking for integrations with technology, it's reducing costs, or it's generating revenue. And those are the three areas where I focus, and where, tech is integrated in the sports business.
That's outstanding. To hear more, we have to do a part two.
I'm
But
looking
no,
forward to that, actually.
yeah, it'll be fun. And then hopefully by next time around we have my co-host who will be a part of it, because he's also into tech as well. So
And I'll
but
wear
real
all my
quick,
rings and show them off.
ooh, you should do that. That'd be fun. That'd be fun. But yeah, Todd, it's been a blast. For all the audience and listeners that are out there and subscribers, please, we thank you for all the likes, the retweets, the subs. You can find us on YouTube at Capturing the Game. You can find us on Twitter at CTG_podcast. We can also find us on Instagram at capturing_the_game_pod. And on Facebook, you can find us at Capturing the Game Podcast. Todd, Todd, it's been a pleasure. It's been a blast just to be able to, talk about a lot of tech and data analytics, and even hear a little bit about Tech Foundry. So, man, blessings to be with you, and best of luck with everything going forward.
Thank you, Desmond. I appreciate it. I really enjoyed it as well, and looking forward to, reconnecting at some point. If my travels bring me to Fort Wayne, I will, take you out for a beer and a burger or something. We'll
Let's do
talk
it.
more sports.
Let's do it. I'm already game for it.
Awesome.